Let's talk about why your support system may disappear when you're in an abusive relationship. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and I have spent many years working with people who've experienced abuse in their relationships, as well as people who have been perpetrators of abuse and violence. So one of the things that happens a lot when abuse victims are, leaving their abusive relationship, or they are no longer with their abuser, they look up and they have no support, or everyone that was considered to be a friend, family, or what have you is disappeared out of their life. And you may be wondering, like, where has my support system gone, or why is no one there for me anymore? And here's a couple of things that stand out to me in terms of why. Here's a couple of reasons, rather, and what stands out to me in terms of why support system may no longer be willing to support or no longer be a part of an abuse victim's life. I think the first thing is this. A lot of times when people are going through domestic violence relationships in the initial stages, they may reach out for support, either to vent about problems that they're encountering with their abuser, or even maybe support in terms of looking to separate or just sort of problem solve what's going on in that abusive relationships. And you have to keep this in mind. Whenever you reach out to a support system and they're there listening to you, you're seeking their advice. You may be seeking other means of support, such as staying with them, financial support, resources, all sorts of things, right? When you do that and your support system offers those things to you, especially advice, right? Or, ways out or things like that. Their expectation is like you see the light at the end of the tunnel and that you're going to take their advice, which is typically to leave that relationship. So this is for people that are advising you to leave that relationship, get away, find someone better, do what you need to do in terms of getting out and being on your own again, or whatever it is. I'll be here to support you if you leave that abusive relationship. As many of you know, it usually takes a domestic violence victim, 7 or more times to leave an abusive relationship. So a lot of times when a person reaches out for that support and they get it back, they don't necessarily leave that relationship, or they may leave for a little bit and then ultimately go back to that relationship. And so if you think about it from the other person's perspective, if they're offering that support to you continuously and then you turn around and go back to that relationship, they look at it like, oh, this is a wasted effort, right? They're not listening to me. They're not respecting the advice that I'm giving to them. They're not utilizing the resources that I'm giving to them for their best benefit. So my efforts are wasted. I don't even want to hear about this anymore. Like, it's exhausting me mentally, and plus they're not taking advantage of it. So they choose to withdraw or distance themselves. One, because they don't feel like you're listening to them, or you're taking advantage of what they're offering to you. So when people offer advice or solutions, or resources to you, if you continue to deny that or continue to go back to a relationship, they're going to feel disrespected, or they're going to feel like they're used, like you are emotionally dumping, but then you're not following up. Or they're going to feel, I hate to say it, like, oh, they must like that abuse then. So what am I doing? Like, I'm the dummy. They must like that abuse. And I'm not saying any of these things are right or wrong. I'm just saying that, like, these are common themes that comes up. So they feel like their efforts aren't appreciated, or you may like the abusive relationship, or you're never going to change your behavior, so their efforts are then wasted. It's almost like they feel like they're pouring their energy down the drain, and it's of no use. So they choose to distance themselves. Plus, they just get emotionally, physically tired of hearing it, right? And so they liken that to emotional dumping. Like, I'm just exhausted. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to be a part of that because nothing's going to change, and I don't want to be on that roller coaster ride with you. And so they feel like, hey, if you continue to do this, you're yo-yoing me back and forth, then you just need to kind of figure it out on your own. And you got yourself into this mess. It's none of my business. I don't want to be a part of it anymore. And it may not just be that particular person that's helping you. It may be their partner or other people that are an extension of them that say, hey, I don't want you getting involved in that anymore. It's taking too much out of our relationship because you're sort of bringing that baggage back with you. And so there could be a trickle down effect where other people are starting to feel affected by that, and they want that person to take distance from you because your relationship becomes very consuming to them. The next thing I want to mention is violence. Whenever you're dealing with a person that is violent, that violent person can be very unpredictable. So if you are constantly going to a friend or a family member and you're dealing with someone who's violent to the point where they could be, especially if they're deadly or just, dangerous and typically reckless, which most violent people are, right? It's not just they're battering you, it's just they lose control of their emotions, and anybody can get it sometimes when a person is very unstable. It can become a dangerous situation to them as well. So I'll give an example. There was a show I was watching, I believe it was on Investigation Discovery, where a pregnant woman decided to help her best friend leave a relationship. And so her best friend offered that she could come and stay with her. And then her abuser, which happened to be a man, then showed up at that best friend's house. And then he ended up battering her best friend, and he ended up kicking her in the stomach, and she was pregnant at the time. And so she also was on the receiving end of that physical threat. And again, to go back to my first point, her friend ended up going back to her abusive partner after that whole incident where her baby was put in danger. She had to go to the hospital and this and that. And so it was a situation where she was like, man, I put myself in danger for my friend, and my friend left and went back to this person. And so it ultimately ended up costing the friendship, because she had put essentially her life and her baby's life on the line for a friend. And so that danger, she incurred danger as part of helping her friend try to get away from a partner that was unstable. And so that's a situation where a person might feel like, I can't be doing that anymore because it's too costly. And lastly, I would like to mention that sometimes when people are in a domestic violence relationship, they don't necessarily have boundaries around that relationship. So I'll give you an example. I had a peer like many, many years ago that was in an abusive marriage with her husband, and she was kind of trying to leave and do other things, like be with other people, but the relationship was volatile and toxic. And so one day, without even knowing it myself, she had shared with her abusive spouse that, hey, I'm at Natalie's house, unbeknownst to me, and I'm getting a call from a person that's out of their mind looking for their wife at like 2, 3, or 4 a.m. And so that, people don't have boundaries. They just sort of put you out there without your consent. And then that opens up a new can of worms, going back to the last point that I made, which is putting you directly in the line of fire without consent. And while you may try to be helpful, People just necessarily aren't thinking per se, and they just throw things out there. But that could definitely put you in the line of fire. So I hope that that helps. My suggestions, or that